Hello and welcome to the Cinema 9 podcast. You are here with me, Travis Roy, and I am joined by my friend Eric Brandstrom, our buddy Mike Govier, whose voice you'd ordinarily hear at the start of the podcast. Couldn't be with us today, but we do wish him and his lady a very happy 5th anniversary. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, but I just spent a half hour on my side deck staring at my neighbor's house because a confrontation is going to have to happen soon because his fucking dog, it barks. He's got a giant German Shepherd that he doesn't know how to take care of. He just throws it outside, never walks it, doesn't play with it, and it just barks constantly until 9:18 p.m. every night. And enough is enough. This is the last straw. I just stood out there waiting for him to come out, but he didn't show. Now I'm down here still mad.
Wait, so the dog is still out there? Even
the
though
dog's still out there, but
I
was waiting for him to come out so we could settle this man to man, but he didn't come out. I was ready for me. I don't do confrontations, but I was ready.
You got little kids that need to sleep, and that's also just annoying to everybody. And worst of all, it's bad for the dog. The dog is clearly neglected. It's barking because it wants attention and probably food and water.
Yeah, but I'm like, that was in my notes, but I'm like, am I going to tell this guy he's a bad dog owner? I don't know how well that would go over.
Oh, you don't need to tell him that. You tell animal control that. Well, maybe not animal control, because they might, if they take the dog, it could get
Griffith,
bad.
I went to the website. Griffith Animal Control says you got to have a verbal meeting with the offender before they'll step in.
So my advice in this situation is you contact a local rescuer. A lot of times they have people who will they'll go to the house and confront them themselves and convince the person to surrender the dog.
Oh, God.
It's like a whole thing that they it's like a whole thing. So the dog can, go somewhere to someone that gives a shit about it. It's an idea.
Yeah, it's a big step. Not movie related, but I don't want to take the guy's dog away. I've seen a lot of sad dog movies where that happened. And
dude, but I mean, if he's not taking care of the dog, he doesn't deserve the dog.
Something might have to go down.
Yeah. Keep us posted here at Cinema 9 Podcast.
You're listening to Neighbor Disputes Weekly.
So we always start the show with our quarantine viewing picks, even though it's 2024. We're not really doing the whole COVID thing as much anymore, but we still call it that.
Sure.
Tradition. And I typically get started, so I'll jump right in.
Sure. What do you got?
Let's see. What have I watched? I made the error of assigning myself the chore of sitting down and enduring 1997's The Relic with Tom Sizemore and Ann Miller.
Oh, Jesus.
It's been since I was like 17 since I watched it, since it was new, but I'm like, Tom Sizemore, this is about as close as he ever got to a leading role. Fucking chore. Not good.
Awful.
Don't revisit.
I was just reading about it a few days ago.
Oh, really?
They released some oddly enough, they released like some creature, like the creature, like in full, like from the Stan Winston studio. And like it looked cool, but like in the movie, I'm like, this is fucking like Sharktopus material.
The movie's like an hour and 50 long or an hour and 40, and it takes, I don't know, an hour at least before you really even see the goddamn thing. It's just like you spent all this money on the effects, and then you're not showing us it. I don't know. It's not even worth the conversation. Let's move on.
It's all right.
And I checked back in on a classic for me, a movie I've thought about bringing to the podcast, but there's just not that much to talk about. But man, I sure love 1992's Mr. Baseball. Just love it. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Don't give a fuck about baseball, but I sure love a good fish out of water story. And I love a movie about a guy who's like, overcoming his ego and learning to work with others and seeing and like changing his ways, even at an advanced age. And of course, who doesn't love Pete Selleck?
I was gonna say, is this the Tom Selleck film?
Yeah. I mean, he's got the mustache.
So what is it like? He they recruit him, and he's just like
he's an aged Yankees player and like kind of like a big celebrity, but he kind of gets in trouble with like the law and that kind of stuff and becomes a liability for the team. And they trade him to a Japanese team, and he goes and he's like, "What the fuck am I doing here? I'm supposed to be a big star, and like this is all weird." And that kind of stuff, but it's also kind of got a romance thing going on with it. It's a fun movie. I've watched it many times over the years, and I still love it.
Mr. Baseball is what
Mr.
Is that the Japanese title? It sounds like it'd be the Japanese title.
It's what they call him. like the Japanese, like in the movie, they call him like
They
the
call him
Japanese,
Mr. Baseball.
they call him, Mr. Besaboro or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck, you know. So that's why it's called that.
Okay.
I took your advice, Eric, and I checked in on the American Nightmare, the horror
Okay,
documentary from
yeah,
2000.
yeah. Nice breezy watch.
No, Eric, it was not. It is no. So you had prefaced it by, or you had pitched it, I guess you could say, by telling me that it's a great horror documentary for historians.
Sure.
If you're interested in horror history, and you are 100% right. Like it
Mhm.
really contextualizes
Yeah.
all of these boomer directors like Tobe Hooper and
Mm.
John Carpenter and Wes Craven and all the guys you would think of. And it does a great and it's 2000s, right before 9/11.
Yeah.
So like without a trace of irony, they're talking about, how their generation lost faith in the institutions and all that kind of stuff. So it is really cool. But man, I sat down. Nothing will make me feel like a bigger asshole than sitting down and watching real people die on screen while I'm eating a fucking burger and like drinking a soda. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting there like eating dinner, and then all of a sudden, like it kept on cutting to like real footage of actual death and like actual bodies and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh
yeah, got to mention that.
Yeah, so I wasn't crazy about that, but I'm very gentle for someone who loves horror.
Yeah, you like your horror fictitious. I get it.
Yeah. You show me like a mutilated corpse that I know is not a real mutilated corpse, and I'm fine.
You watch a dude melt after drinking a pint of Viper? No problem. I'll eat dinner and watch that.
Exactly. And then I checked back in on Salem's Lot from 1979.
Yes.
Floating boys in mist in front of a window of the movie, but it's still creepy. It's still good, and I'm looking forward to that the new one coming out on Max very soon, finally. So I thought it'd be fun to revisit. Yeah, I know it was in production hell for a long time, but I'm still going to give it a shot. The new one, I mean. And then after that, like I watched some really good stuff here. They're all my last three are all major recommendations, I would say. The Fall Guy from last year or from this year. I really enjoyed Fall Guy. When I sat down to watch it on Peacock, it was like the extended version. I'm like, I don't need a 2 hour and 20-minute action comedy. Thank you very much. And I went back in and I found the like the regular version, which is 2 hours long. But like I'm less than halfway through it. I'm like, I'm gonna watch that extended version of this.
Oh wow. Holy shit.
I liked it a lot. I mean, it doesn't have rave reviews, but this is for me, like this is it's exactly what you want in an action comedy. For me, it's just it was funny, it was entertaining. Sometimes, I mean, it followed some serious movie logic and was really dumb in some places, but I mean, it's a big blockbustery kind of movie, and it's a fun homage to stunts and stunt people. And if you like Ryan Gosling and it's like when he's like being funny, and the chemistry between him and Emily Blunt is off the charts. They're really good together. I'd love a sequel. I would love a sequel.
Okay.
Definitely check that out.
I will.
The Boy in the Heron, the supposed final film from Hayao Miyazaki last year. Yep. It what can I say about this masterpiece? I mean, moved me to tears. Very, very fitting final movie, if it is in fact his final movie for him. Takes place in post-war Tokyo and gets into some fun and weird stuff, and the art is incredible. But my God, whenever I watch a Studio Ghibli film, the first time I always make sure I watch the Americanized, like the audio version, instead of subtitles.
Sure.
Because once I got it down, I'll watch the subtitled version. But when I just want to first have it wash over me, I don't want to like have to read. I want to focus on all what I'm looking at. Robert Pattinson and the work that he does in this movie in the audio work that he does.
Oh shit.
What? I mean, like you would never believe it was him if you didn't know. It's incredible, dude. I'm just like the whole time I'm like marveling, like this is fucking Robert Pattinson I'm listening to. So weird. Like the dude is really just, I mean, it's like another example of a movie that ups my esteem of him.
Best dubbing in any movie ever?
I mean, I'm not making that's a big claim, but I'm just saying, like, as far as character work and voice work goes, like, there's two kinds of voice work that you're going to get from an actor. They're going to get someone that's kind of like, hey, this is my voice. Hi, I'm Billy Bob Thornton, and this is my voice.
Yep.
Or sometimes you're going to get somebody like Robert Pattinson, or anyone else spring him. Nick Cage, I think, has done it before. People that actually like will stage characters and not like try and do the same voice. They're like,
Oh man,
you know what I mean? Like they're like inventing a character for themselves. You would never in a million years expect this was Robert Pattinson unless you knew it going in.
I can't think of any other example. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm gonna think about that over the next week. Email the show.
Yeah. Cinema9pod at 9390 or whatever the fuck it is. You know what it
Dude,
is.
Bong Joon-ho is teamed up with Bong Joon-ho for his Mickey 17. The trailer just hit. Oh my god, this looks amazing.
I'm excited. Last film I gotta really recommend. It is the 5th or 6th version of this movie. There was like 3 versions made in the 1950s. Altman made one in 1988, and then Mr. William Friedkin last year remade The Caine Mutiny Court Martial.
Oh, here we go.
Have you watched it or heard about it?
Not Friedkin's.
Oh my god, dude. Oh, it's so fucking good.
Oh my god.
It was so fucking good. If you like courtroom dramas, if you don't like courtroom dramas, run in the opposite direction.
I love courtroom dramas. My favorite genre.
Virtually the entire movie just takes place in a courtroom. It's almost like it made me think of 12 Angry Men, only the trial instead of the deliberation. You got some pretty decent actors. Jason Clarke is killing it. Lance Reddick in one of his final roles is basically the judge at this court martial. Kiefer Sutherland, who has not impressed me in a very long time, really impressed me in this. And it's a slow burn. It's just one of those things. Like, I mean, it's a super talkie. It's based on a play, even. Like, this is there's a book, then there's a movie, then there's a play. That's just, I don't know, the whole Caine Mutiny thing. They've really gone out of control with it, apparently. But if you're into courtroom drama at all, the what's it called again? It's got a long title. The Caine Mutiny Court Martial was really fun. It was one of those movies that by the end, it was like, fuck yeah.
It's great Bill Friedkin's final film.
Is it really his final film?
Yeah. And I was just watching. I love to watch interviews with this guy. He's like my favorite person to watch in interviews. I was just watching one a couple days ago. Man, I'm there. I can't wait. I don't really like Jason Isaacs, but I'm there.
He's good in this. He's getting older. You know what I mean? He's kind of like changing his vibe a little bit, I think. Yeah. Or maybe it's just the character that he's playing here, but it really, he works for the character very well. I loved it. I really wasn't. I mean,
what's it on?
It's on Showtime. Well, you could always get Showtime. Like, I get Showtime through Paramount Plus, so you can like add on Showtime for a month and turn it off or something. It'd be worth it. I promise. That's what I watched.
Those are some solid choices, man. That sounds like a great week. Yeah, you know what? One of my favorite books is Where the Wild Things Are, and I remember the 2009 Spike Jonze film. I remember sleeping in the theater. I fell asleep in the theater. And I've been anticipating that my entire life. It was like my favorite book. I'm like, Spike Jonze is doing Where the Wild Things Are. Got to the theater on opening night, fell asleep halfway through, and I watched it a couple days ago with my kids. This is the fucking most depressing, weird ass conundrum of a fucking preposterous. What is this?
I'm surprised you watched it with your kids, to be honest. What'd they make of it?
They were fucking depressed, and Vaughn's only 3 years old. And started crying. Like nonsensical conversation. Like, it is so. How did they make this? It's just so weird. I spent the whole time why this choice? Why that choice? Why what is this? I get what they're going for, and like this 2009 Phoenix type soundtrack is just not, Arcade Fire is just so cringeworthy. It's like so 2009. Horrible.
Too bad.
Yeah, I mean, The Sopranos season 5. You're right. Season 5 is fucking awesome. Robert Loggia, his Feach, so fucking good. Steve Buscemi's Tony B. Oh my god, this character. At first, I was like, I thought I remembered them being like, we're out of ideas. The show's over. Once the divorce happens, we got nothing. But then they're like, well, let's bring Steve Buscemi here and try to liven things up. But what do we do with him? I don't know. No, this is a great character. This season is fucking awesome. It's like, it's so good. But what I wanted to talk about last week AJ, as a
Mm.
44-year-old man watching The
Mhm.
Sopranos, AJ's fucking hilarious. I used to be so annoyed by this shitbag like in the early 2000s. He's so funny. He's like exactly what like a kid is. Like
Mhm.
just a little shit. He's got no redeeming qualities. He's not even like nice or kind. He's just a little shit. And like that's
Yeah,
what teenagers are. And like they don't
especially
pull
his.
any punches on it. Like they don't pull the punches. He's always just like dim, dumb, non-caring, like a dipshit. And it's just funny. And this kid does a great job.
He does an awesome job. Yeah, that's one of my big takeaways every time I watch this show again is that Robert Eiler as AJ Soprano fucking kills it.
So good, man.
Love it.
What can you say? And I gotta, man, I never thought in a million years I'd say this.
Oh boy.
Luke's gonna be pissed.
Is it about Class? You got things to say about Class?
No, I'll refrain. But aside from Sopranos, like I've been listening to fucking Club Random. Like I've been listening to Bill Maher's show. Like I love this show. I hated Bill Maher for so long. But like,
Yeah,
I really don't know why. I don't know why that much. Like, what? I'll go back. Let me backtrack. I don't agree with him politically that well, but on his pod, he's kind of different on this pod. Like he's not like his attitude is like not like rancorous or like aggressive or anything. He's very open-minded on his podcast. And he's got great guests. Like I listened to David Mamet's episode. It was fucking awesome. And Quentin Tarantino's episode is hilarious. And like, I don't know, I'm kind of changing my mind on this guy. Like he just seems very open-minded and not as judgmental as I thought he was before. I haven't seen Real Time in a long time, but like, I don't know, he was making me laugh. And I'm just like, you know what? It's kind of good to like interesting to hear somebody that I don't agree with is like not being a dick and having a good conversation. I don't know. I'm kind of digging it.
That's good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I've heard that he's very different on the podcast than he is on the show. I stopped watching the show years ago. I used to be a big fan of his and of that show. And I can't say I've watched it in a while. Every now and then I'll see a clip or I'll read something that he said. And it pretty much confirms that I'm not interested in his takes anymore because he's a fucking dick. But if he's nice on the show, on that podcast, then okay.
I mean, I don't want to say he's nice. He's just like what he does, which a lot of other podcasters don't do, is they don't just like accept answers. Like he constantly is pushing back and is like, whoa, wait, hold on. So what are you talking about? Like you said this a few years ago, and he's constantly like calling people out when they deserve it. And I'm digging that. And he's not mean about it. But I don't know. It's just there's great episode. The David Mamet, if you're a fan of like screenwriting, he really gets into some great stories.
Yeah, I can't spend that much time with Bill, but you enjoy it.
Dude, I gotta say, man, until Sopranos wraps up and I jump into another series, that's where I'm at right now, and I'm not unhappy about it. I gotta watch this Wise Guy show. I gotta catch up on the real story.
Yeah, and you gotta watch the movie too, the Many Saints of Newark, right? You haven't seen that yet.
I gave it 3 chances. I gave it 3 chances. It fucking sucks.
That's one more chance than I gave it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
For some reason, I thought you hadn't watched it. Never mind. Okay. Well, ordinarily Mike would be chiming in here, but we'll have to get something from him another time. He will maybe make a little side episode for this because I know he has got plenty to say about our feature film this week, 1997's LA Confidential.
That's right, Travis. I chose this film as suggested last week. This is one that was on heavy rotation back in the day, at least for me. Like the DVD just about got worn out at my house for reasons I'm pretty sure I know why I used to watch this a lot. But yeah, I remember it being a big deal, especially 1997. I mean, that was a fucking great year. Good Will Hunting, Titanic, as good as it gets. But all the critics would talk about that year, and I still remember all they give a shit about was L.A. Confidential. That's all I heard about.
Yeah, it was almost annoying.
Yeah, it was almost annoying.
Like I felt the same. I felt like this is one that I watched a bunch back in the day, but I felt like I got kind of annoyed with the praise. I'm like, there's other great movies that came out this time. What do you think the IMDb score is?
I didn't check, Travis, but this has got to be high. I'm going to say 7.9 at this point in time. I think it's been 27 years or so. I think it's waned off a little bit, but we're still at a 7.9. I guarantee that. Lock that in.
I continue to be disappointed by Roku and
fucking
and Amazon Prime and their need to like shove the IMDb, because I rented it and it was just, again, it was like right there, so I already knew. It's even higher than that. It is 8.2.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
surprised.
either.
I've got Rotten Tomatoes up. You?
Oh, thank God.
Travis, this is one of the most sensational across the board hits on Rotten Tomatoes we've seen. The people are so happy. The people love it at 94%. That popcorn is buttery, fresh. It's even got that nasty ass like ranch powder on it. That's how much people love this shit. The critics are at 99%. 99% based on 165 reviews. What can you say? We're gonna be hard pressed to find a splat here, but I remember, man, this was just a critical darling. Some people,
oh my God,
the great Dave Horning suggested on Mike's Is It Safe Show podcast that this is Hollywood up its own ass, and maybe that's why they loved it so much. Who knows? Who knows?
Hollywood does like a Hollywood movie. I'm sorry, what?
The Philadelphia Inquirer's Stephen Ray, Travis.
Oh, kill your own kind?
Yes, kill your own kind. Says LA Confidential isn't quite up there with Chinatown, but it's the closest thing to come down the Santa Monica Freeway in the last 23 years. He loves this movie.
That's not a surprise.
Yeah, there's going to be those Chinatown comparisons. They just you have to bring it up, I guess. I don't know why they like to compare so much. I don't get it.
Because they think there's only one movie about 1950s California or LA.
Owen Gleiberman, Travis, one of my favorites from Entertainment Weekly. Owen,
you clumsy poop. All right, what do you have to say?
With its plot that zigs and zags like knife slashes, its cynicism stoked to the melting point, the movie brings the thrill of corruption cracklingly to life. It's true, man. Yeah, a lot of energy here, Travis.
Wow. Yeah. I imagine, can you find a splat? Yeah, I felt like it was just nothing but glowing praise at the time.
Before I get to the legendary, in his prime, Desson Thomson, I want to talk to you about Dwight Gardner over at Salon.com. He's a top critic.
Okay.
He splats it, man. He's willing to go out and splat it in the face of, and he's just like Ed Exley. He went out there, he took a chance, and he splatted it, and he was murdered shortly after this review because of that fact. He says, you emerge from the theater feeling like Hansen finally managed to push LA Confidential past the usual boundaries. Your waiting hasn't been entirely in vain, but by this point, you're almost too burned out to care.
Wow. This guy's never seen a noir before, has he?
That's the thing. Noir, they will fucking exhaust the fuck out of you with their intricacies.
I took so many notes. I'm just like, there's so much happening. Like, just every scene, there's like so much to unpack.
So like, who did what now? Oh, Jesus Christ. Desson Thomson said on June 4th, 2014. Wow, this is a late review for Desson. Wasn't he out of Obama's cabinet by then?
Maybe it was posted in 2014 and he actually did it in 97.
Either way, he gives it a glowing review saying there are so many things to enjoy here. Director Curtis Hanson keeps a complex story coherent and absorbing, if bloody at the end. Okay, all right.
We've had better from our boy, but it's always good to hear from him.
Hey, writing a lot of speeches.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Everyone's happy, but it's been a long time. For me, it's been about maybe 15 years.
Dude, I would guess I probably haven't seen this since sometime around 2000 or so. I was not in love with it back in the day. I liked it, but I felt like the praise was overhyped. And I liked it. I had a copy of it at the house. I owned, I got one of those $4.99 Blockbuster used ones, off the shelf, that kind of thing. And so I liked it, but Curtis Hanson and Dante Spinotti teamed up the next 3 years later to bring me one of my favorite movies of all time, Wonder Boys.
Best movie ever.
And I also felt like in 97 that there was, I don't know. I think I literally think I was just kind of like sick of hearing about it. So I watched it a few times and I liked it, but I didn't watch it for a long time.
Travis is admitting his personal bias against 1997's critical darling.
I just don't like it when people tell me to like something, even if it's good, even if they're right. Sometimes I'll be like, no. But it's not even like I didn't like it. I liked it. I just didn't love it and watch it over and over again.
I did, even though like I wasn't in the film noir back then. I know why I liked it, as hinted at earlier. It's because I was just starting to get into like, well, who makes movies? Like who actually makes the movies? What's a director and all that? And I was like, oh my god, the cinematography, the acting, the direction, all that stuff was just like absolute candy. But like what we're going to talk about today is things such as like if you took if this was like no name actors and the cinematography wasn't good, but you had the same exact script, would you care?
Wait, back up. If it was the same exact script with different actors,
same exact script, no name actors, cinematography was like blah, would you give a shit at all about this story or anything going on?
I would maybe have less patience with it and keeping up with what's going on. I do want to say though, going back to my point about how I felt about it, I did name my first dog Rolo.
It's true. I was going to say that.
So I mean, it's not like
I thought you were a super fan.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, no, I liked it, but super fan would be a stretch.
Yep.
But yeah. So where to cut in here? This is like a philosopher's dream. I feel like in a lot of ways because you got three different main leads here with three different motivations for justice, right? It's all about their motivations for justice. Like you got Bud, who is he'll take, he'll do whatever he needs to do so long as he can stop the bad guy, and he is motivated because like he, childhood trauma and like this white knight syndrome. And then you have Exley, who is like the lawful good, but like clearly motivated by his career and pride and a need to like to live up to his father
legacy.
He says that straight up. And then you have Jack, who is he does, he engages in practicing justice of some kind, supposedly, but he's motivated by the accolades and the attention and the praise that he gets for doing it. So it's like this Kierkegaardian thing that, which I am not someone that could really get into all those weeds, but I do know that like that he looks at like what is like, is good just good on its own, right? Is the good that they do, which sometimes they're not doing good. Like Jack, I think in particular, does some, he leads, his selfishness leads to the death of this young actor.
Yep.
So, but still, like as far as like what motivates us to do good, does it matter if in the end you do the right thing, which all three of them do?
You bring up a great point. Yeah, I love this. Let's play. We could play like who's the? Can you spot the Calvinist? Like we could like start a drinking game here. But what it also does is it makes it dependent on who like the audience's favorite character is based on like a certain type of philosophy. Because I see a lot of good in all three of these characters in different ways based on their own philosophies. And this is 1997, and they are what was assumed to be, according to James Ellroy, an unfilmable novel. They are balancing three very well drawn out, developed characters in one story before all of this like fucking babble and all this Alejandro Iñárritu stuff came out.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like a big clumsy ensemble piece.
You know I mean? No, not at all.
It doesn't feel like you're spending time with like, okay, now we're with this guy, now we're with this guy. They're all working together to tell one story together. And to go back real quick, because I thought of it as you were talking, there is a fourth person who offers a sense of justice here, which is the kidnapping victim Inez, who straight up tells Exley at one point, I lied. I knew that no one would care about what happened to a Latina girl, so I lied about what they did so I could get justice that way. I'm like, well, it's hard to argue with that too. You get these different perspectives. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray lines here. I mean, from right down the middle, right down to Dudley Smith. I mean, they're everywhere. And this is 97, and I did the math. This is like 44 years after 53 when this should have taken place. So one part of me is like, you're going to fucking make a movie which is at one point glamorizing this era and trying to point the finger at corruption when we're in like prime 90s LA corruption of the highest order. It got a little queasy.
Maybe it was an attempt to draw attention to the years-long corruption and scandals that has plagued the LAPD. Right? I mean, it's maybe it was trying to make that connection to the past and be like, hey, what we're dealing with now post Rodney King is the same shit in a way that they were dealing with 40 years ago.
Yeah, they're almost doing what the ending does, which is announce a hero while also trying to condemn the crimes. So they're praising themselves while also kind of saying, like, sweeping shit under the rug, especially in Hollywood at that time. And this is prime like Weinstein award sweep 1997 shit. But yeah, you know, we got 2 Aussies in the leads here, and almost even 3 with this fucking guy that plays Matt. Which is,
I always forget his name.
Which I didn't really even think about, because this is the first time I'd seen Romper Stomper, but I had not seen Guy Pearce. And this guy just exploded. And everyone's got their opinions about fucking Ed Exley.
I'm trying to think if I saw Guy Pearce before this.
Did you see Priscilla, the Queen of the Desert?
No. Yes, but not until after I saw this.
Yeah, it had to have been the first time. So
yeah,
maybe it was convenient for the film for us to get, at least for me, I remember really digging these characters because they seemed like real people because of the fresh faces I was seeing.
Yeah, because we were pretty. I mean, Russell Crowe this was the big breakout for him, right? I
mean,
I feel like this
did 6.7 Virtuosity, but
that may have been in theaters, but it wasn't like it made him a household.
Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, and again, like not stuff that people. I mean, like people. He was there, but he was not.
But this was like, who the fuck is this? Is fucking Richard Burton come to life?
Right. So this movie definitely. It's funny because it's packed full of pretty big names like Kevin Spacey and James Cromwell and Danny DeVito and all these pretty well-known guys. How do we feel about Sid? You made a noise. Let's talk Danny.
I was annoyed. I've always been irritated by this fucking character. I don't like the fucking cheesy voiceover. I think he's a dumb character, cartoon. Feels like fucking Roger Rabbit.
That's exactly what I was about to say. He feels like something straight out of Roger Rabbit. A lot of this movie reminds me of Roger Rabbit, to be honest.
Dude, you're right. You're right. And that's like the trouble with parody, especially when parodies start to look like actual movies. It makes actual movies, it makes you do a double take.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated what they were trying to do with the whole tabloid journalism and the connection that can have between cops and people and all that kind of. I appreciated what they were doing with him, but you're right. Just like that these droll witticisms being intoned by Danny DeVito as we're watching people get murdered, like it got tiresome pretty quickly. Yeah, that part of it did. I mean, Danny DeVito. It was kind of interesting to see Danny DeVito in a role like this because you don't really see that much, especially these days. When he was like, oh, he's doing a real role. He's doing a real performance. What an interesting premise, by the way.
Yeah.
For James Ellroy. I mean, I feel like he must have kind of been thinking to himself, like, what if, a police chief decided that he wanted to take over the organized crime of a city? Like, what would that look like?
Right.
It's funny. I can't think of another movie quite where that exactly happened before. It probably did before in sense, but I can't think of any. And to make that like all kind of like be the background and it gets unpacked as the film goes along. And then you're finally at the end, like, oh, this is not the very end, but towards the end, you're like, oh, this is what's been going on. This is what's been driving all of this. It's been Smith. It's interesting.
I was always just like, all right, Cromwell, do your leprechaun accent. Who cares? Let's get to the scenes that I like. But like, this is an interesting character. I threw my notes away. I did that because all my notes were just like, yeah, this was good. This was good. This was good. This was good. Like, why do I even need these notes? But one of the quotes I wish I still had was when he's talking to Exley at first. He's like, I'll paraphrase, but he's saying, are you willing to do the things that you're going to need to do? Well, you don't need to do any of those. There's this like confirmation. There's this assumption that you were going to be a fucking crooked cop just because you're an LAPD officer. That is disgusting.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's what makes Bud such a compelling character, because Bud is wrong. Bud is a bad cop.
Yeah.
Bud is Bud is like the Fourth Amendment, the Eighth Amendment. These things don't even exist to him. He
No.
couldn't tell you what the fuck they are. Like, you know, like he doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, like I'm like watching him beat the shit out of the night owl suspect. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to hold up in court. But then I'm like, oh yeah, right. Like none of this matters because it's all going to be fudged at the top levels.
Right.
So
Right. That's true. Although I do love that scene, like this. That's one thing that this movie does that's cool for me, because we're dealing with a movie that takes place in 1953. This is before like fucking body cams and police brutality became as it should be at the top of the deck when it comes to how we deal with law enforcement. But when somebody's life is on the line and you fucking need answers, I gotta admit, dude, I was like, yeah, fuck, bud, get in there and get the information you need. This is fucking awesome.
Except for the fact that Exley was doing a great job. He was playing them off one another. He's like making them hear each other's confessions. He's literally getting the job done in the legal and ethical way, or at least not physically violent way. And then Bud comes in there like a goddamn bull.
Yeah. Yeah, but it makes for such interesting character dynamics.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, especially the dynamics between those two, right? Because they fucking hate each other. When Bud is like looking at his dead partner's body, and Exley's got to come up and be like, me. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Exley?
Yep. Cracks a joke immediately. Guess he got what he deserved. Now he won't have to go to jail. Like, fuck you piece of shit. Even Guy Pearce said this was one of the most self-righteous pricks he's ever had to play. Yeah. And it's true. Like, dude, when I first watched this movie, I'm like, this fucking Guy Pearce and his smug little side smile can fucking blow me. Then I saw Ravenous. I'm like, fuck, I love Guy Pearce. But he's perfect. He's not Serpico. Like, he's not Serpico, someone that you like and can get behind, and you're like, yes, go get him, get out there. Like, let's do the right thing. Like, you are like, dude, Exley, you don't know what you're out of your league here, dude. This is just the way it is. And you're just too fucking self-righteous. And behind that, you have a huge chip on your shoulder, and you have an ego right to the end. So much is that you will totally be cool with this entire scandal being swept under the rug, so long as you are once again promoted. He's an interesting character, and I want him to be interesting in not just cookie cutter, but it's tricky. It's hard.
Well, if you think about it, he also had to play along at the end so that he doesn't go to prison for shooting Smith in the back. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, like, they make Smith the hero, and they make him into a villain. So like they kind of have to do that.
Yeah, they like, totally did that. I one thing I don't, there's some things I don't like about the film, but the one thing I don't like is how he has to like explain to what's her name? What's this girl's name? Lynn. He's like, he has to like, what, like, so in case the audience is like, why did he do that? He's got to be like, hey, they took from me and I'm going to take a little bit from them. Like, yeah, we get it. Like we get it. That was too much on the nose. There's some stuff that's pretty on the nose here. I mean, there's a lot of like big, like there's big punctuation marks on a lot of these scenes that are kind of
I've got one for you that's pretty on the nose, which I actually never noticed before. But watching it last night, I'm like, oh, this is glaringly obvious. I'm like watching the movie, and I'm like, this fucking idiot is at another shootout without his goddamn glasses. He keeps on showing up without his glasses,
dude.
And then he has like this big revelation where he realizes that he's lost his way, that he's lost focus on what is right and what is good, and then he's got his glasses on after that. I'm like,
dude.
Okay, that's subtle.
Dude, you need to get to DOC, man. Business coke. Even his own supervisor says, lose the glasses, man. We can't have people like with bad vision here because they won't look professional. Fucking dumb.
Yeah, but the symbolism behind it is, I like it, and also it's a little heavy-handed at the same time. It works and it doesn't, I guess, for me. I guess is what
we get it. Don't look too closely at any of this. Come on now. Yeah. But yeah, man, we got a Brian Helgeland screenplay, I believe. I'm not sure if he won the Oscar, but this is for an adapted screenplay. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, this is a dense, fantastic fucking script.
It is extremely dense. There's just every moment there's something happening, and you kind of got to keep up. But it stays entertaining.
Yeah, I'll admit I've seen this 500 times. I jumped on Wikipedia to see what the fuck was going on. I'm not going to deny it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I was able to follow it. I mean, for the most part. I know that things get a little murky with La Fleur de Lis and all that and all that. A tiny
Desire the movie.
Yeah, but but I do think that actually there was one part that did really, maybe you can answer me with there was only one part that really stuck out to me. I'm like, what the fuck? Because Bud is there when, what's the murdered girl with the broken nose's name? I already forget. Feller or Fleller. I forget her name.
Dude, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know her name, but you know who I'm talking about. The girl with the broken nose.
Yeah.
So
Rita
he's
Hayworth.
there when, he's there when her mother is identifying the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then like an hour later in the movie, he finds out that she was one of the victims of the Night Owl. And he like jumps up and it's like a big deal.
Yeah, he would know that.
Right?
He would.
Did you catch that? Did you catch that too?
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Okay.
Makes
And
sense.
Wikipedia didn't clear it up.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that. But like, that's kind of the fun of film noirs. They are like 10 moves ahead of you, and that's like the whole point, is to just makes them watchable. I don't remember making this rewatchable. I don't remember it being rewatchable because I didn't understand the plot. It was just like fun performances and like excellent cinematography, and like you're supposed to like it. So,
and I always loved. God, I'm gonna say it. I always loved Kevin Spacey in this movie. I thought he was great back then. And watching it last night, God damn it, he's really good in this role. He is, man.
Travis, he's so fucking good at playing someone who knows they are complicit and deserve comeuppance and are still trying to enjoy their fucking own scandal.
Yeah, what is it he says at one point? He says like something like the world's not ready for the real me. I'm like, oh boy, we sure weren't. But you're right, he is really good at playing that kind of guy who loves the spotlight but also has some guilt. But when actually is telling him about Rollo Tomassi and asks him why he became a cop, and he says, I don't remember.
Oh my God.
Oh, dude.
That pause.
Oh my, yeah, the pause, the volume that he says it at, everything about that is a fucking perfect delivery. God damn him for being such a son of a bitch in real life, because he is still such a great actor. God damn it.
Get back out there. I told you I'm primed for a comeback. Listen, he's fantastic. There's no doubt about it. He's so fucking good.
He is. Damn it.
Man. Oh, Kim Basinger takes home the Oscar.
Why?
For playing Lynn Bracken.
Why did she?
Why?
Who was she up against? Do we know?
Somebody has to look this up. Like, she just said the lines. Like, I got nothing against her. She seems like a sweet lady. She just says the lines.
I mean, maybe because it's like it was surprising then, I guess. You know what I mean?
What's
like
the big surprise? Oh, she's not 9.5 weeks.
I don't know.
I'm confused here, man. Like, it's not that I don't like the character, and I'm confused. What does she do? There's not even a big scene, like big 90s scene. What even was the clip at the Oscars?
I don't know. She won. She beat out Joan Cusack in and Out, which, all right.
I mean, okay.
I'm surprised that she was nominated, but I sure like that movie in that role. Gloria Stewart for Titanic, which,
well, come on, man.
Kind of a nod.
Great. Yeah.
And then we got Minnie Driver in Good Will Hunting and Julianne Moore in Boogie Nights.
Are you fucking kidding? Yeah, this is a travesty.
That is either one of those performances, Minnie Driver or Julianne Moore.
Absolutely.
I mean,
this was a purchased Oscar. This was bought. This was prepaid. She put a deposit on that Oscar.
I will not make those kinds of accusations.
I will.
I do feel like this is definitely one that I was puzzled at the time that she won. And here we are decades later, and I'm still like,
am I missing
she's not
the
bad
subtext here? Like, no, I don't think I'm missing any subtext or anything that she's doing that's like under the surface.
Vicky Vale. She's fucking Vicky Vale again.
She's Vicky Vale saying the lines.
Yeah, she's just Vicky Vale. I'm gonna show up and wear this dress. I don't know. I mean, she's fine, but I do think she's got a few really good moments of delivery. When that whole monologue where she tells off Exley, which he is so fucking in that scene when he's just like all over.
I've never
so
understood
rapey.
It. I've never understood why she's even attracted to him.
She's not. She's doing it because Sid's in the closet taking pictures, and she was set up. She was told to do it by her pimp.
See, I missed that. I thought this was a real
no.
This was a real love triangle.
That's why when Bud confronts her and asks why she did it, she said, I thought I was helping you, because that's probably
these fucking film noirs.
Yeah. And then of course Bud, the great savior of women, like smacks her around and almost punches her in the face.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like, oh, that's
true.
disappointing.
No, James Ellroy's mother was raped and
Oh,
murdered.
yeah. I read his memoir. It is,
You did?
yeah,
Oh
Darkest Night or whatever it's
man.
called.
Oh
I
my
forget what
god.
it's an awesome read, but holy
Oh,
shit. A lot of like, hey, yep. So there I was sniffing glue in the park again. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. It's pretty hardcore, but it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
actually
I
one
want
of
to
the
read
only
that.
things of his that I've read. I've not really read a lot of his novels,
I
but I
want to
did
read
read
it,
that.
man. Isn't he a
It was good.
Michigander?
I don't know. I don't think so. It could
No,
be.
I'm thinking of Elmore Leonard. Fuck me.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Leonard.
Yeah. Damn. Bust out those notes. What do we got here?
What do we have here? A lot of me trying to make sense of what the fuck I was watching. Um, I think that Bud, the when I'm watching the movie, I'm entertained by Bud and I'm on Bud's side. But when I think of him, like, because I actually had to like watch this in chunks. I was pretty busy and I thought we were gonna might end up doing it last night. So I like watched it like in a half-hour chunk, and then like the next day, so I kind of had like more time to think about it. And the more I thought about Bud, the more problems I had with his whole approach. In particular, like the wife. So he gets this wife beat. He stops this man from beating his wife in the beginning of the movie, and you're like, yeah, fuck him. Stop that guy from beating his wife. And then he threatens him with being sent up to Sing Sing as a kitty raper, quote unquote. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so like how often does he do that kind of shit? And it's like, I don't know, like
Yeah.
justice is so participatory, right? It is what we make of it as a society. And I obviously am not a fan of anyone that would beat their partner. That is you know, beyond the pale.
Right.
But because you've got these personal issues because of what happened to you as a kid, you're gonna have someone murdered. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and so like it's stuff like that where it's like, yeah, I'm on board with like what you were saying earlier. Like I'm kind of on board when I'm watching the movie with Bud. When I think about the whole career that he would have had, how many people that would have been strapped to chairs getting fucking pummeled by his fist
Yeah, sure.
before he actually stops to ask, does this person deserve it? Like he's like, I think in
Yeah.
a lot of ways he's a pretty shitty cop.
Yeah, and what the interesting thing about the movie is I don't know if like the movie's saying like Bud. I mean, there are definitely ways to motivate you to say like you should like Bud. I don't know if Curtis Hanson really does that, because Bud
Yeah.
is like he's someone who he wants to punish men. He wants to punish bad men. That is his MO. Okay. He has no interest in litigious justice, none whatsoever. He just wants to punish them physically or do what he can to just break them and destroy them because he's trying to find his father. So he's a bull given a hall pass in a job in 1953 where he can do that sort of thing and not be arrested.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I get all that. It's just, yeah, it doesn't work for me because he's not actually being lawful. It's just a personal vendetta.
So maybe there should have been a little bit more to that dynamic then. Maybe
Because you see where Buddy,
he should have been challenged a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sorry to jump in on you there, but I feel like to get to your point that you were trying to make as I cut you off. I do feel like you see Bud's influence on Exley, but you don't really see Exley's influence on Bud.
That's it. That's it exactly. That's what it needed.
Yeah, it needed a little bit more. You needed a moment where Bud was like, "Let's do this by the book."
I'm not self-righteous so much as I am about like having integrity. And he says himself, silence and integrity are not thing. And what Bud does is he stays silent until he needs to do what he thinks is the right thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, Russell Crowe in this role is fucking awesome. And not a lot of people can do this. Like one of my notes before I tossed them was you could have an actor that like is capable of like delivering dialogue, a lot of dialogue and not being silent, which Russell Crowe can do expertly. But he can also sit there and just move his eyes around and give entire speeches with his eyes. That's not fucking easy. A lot of people cannot do both.
He's definitely the character that we're following the most in the film, though. He's the one that we see the vulnerabilities of the most. We see his romantic side. We see him struggle the most. We get the most screen time with him probably out of the three of them, too. So I do feel like Hanson is trying to make us, we're following him most of all. right?
Mhm. Yeah,
But to switch gears a little bit, because you said something that jarred my
sure,
memory.
sure.
I love that when Eggleston walks into the Night Owl in the aftermath of that
So
murder,
good.
and nothing spoken. We're just
Fucking awesome.
following his eyes, and he's tracking what happened, and like I feel like I am a detective. I feel like
Yeah.
I am like telling, like the image, the camera, and his
Yeah.
eye. You know what he's doing. Like it tells a story. It tells a story of this mass murder, and it's
So
done so
good.
fucking well.
The scanning of the scene, like,
Mhm.
from his point of view is so fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Yep,
because
no
you're
cop filling him in on what happened, like,
mhm,
immediately when he walks in, none of that
exactly.
bullshit. Yeah, so fucking good. I mean, it's a pot boiler. I mean, this is a pulp pot boiler, and I think that's probably why critics loved it, because these critics, especially in that day, they grew up on probably in 1997, like
Mhm.
being fed films like The Bad and the Beautiful
Yeah.
and Out of the Past, and Little Caesar, film noirs that they thought they were supposed to like, but they were neutered. This is pre Hays Code. This was
Mhm.
neutered film noir, but this film has a chance to do exactly that, but have fucking blood and guts. And that
Yes.
marriage in 1997 was explosive.
Truly hard boiled. Yeah. You get all the nitty gritty here for sure. I'd like to talk a little bit more about James Cromwell.
Bring it.
I don't know specifically what I have to say, just that it's interesting. It's cool to have him as a villain. I can't think of another movie really where he was this villainous. And it felt like such a switch at the time because he was always so. This is the dude from Babe. You know, he did Babe, what,
Babe.
2 years before this?
Gabe Ephraim Cochran for you First Contact fans out there. Yeah,
He's
it's James
always been a
Cromwell.
gentle, kind of grandfatherly almost kind of guy. So you know that as you're watching the movie that he's extremely morally gray. But when he does ask Jack if he told Eggleston yet, and then just turns and
Mhm.
pops him,
Yep.
I still remember being in theaters and just being fucking floored
Yeah.
by that. That was one of the biggest twists in a movie. I still feel like that's a huge twist in the movie. I did not see that coming at all.
It's one of the best of the 90s because it's so fucking brazen, and people with fucking power can do brazen acts like that knowing that they're 10 steps ahead again.
Yeah.
They're gonna get there's no paper, there's nothing. He
And
does
it
it
happens.
expertly.
Sorry, and it happens so fast, right? And out of nowhere, you're just like, what?
Yeah.
You know,
As soon as he knows about Meeks and he's gonna start fucking sniffing around, he's got to be put down. I mean, it's fucking awesome.
yeah, and it's very like, Janet Leigh kind of thing,
Yeah.
killing off your biggest star. I mean, it's towards the end of the film, but still, like,
It's a
he was the
confident
name out of the three of
protagonist.
them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Also, we got to take a trip to Camp Rifkin.
We would be remiss if we didn't talk. Seth, you piece of shit, you've lied again. Rifkin.
Shit. Camp Rifkin, and Ron Rifkin does fucking great work here, man. I mean, he's your typical fucking corrupt god, whatever the fuck.
He does.
But he brings it, man.
Yeah, he is awesome in this.
And the scene in the interrogation room when they're telling him, I mean, corruption can be Serpico is the best of all time, the way that Sidney Lumet portrays it.
Mm-hmm.
But what this does is they really put you in the driver's seat, man. They lay everything out there. Your career, your reputation, the stakes, everything is right there when they offer him, like, what are you going to do? Like, how do you want to proceed here? Because we have the ball. Like, we have the ball. We have all the power.
Mm-hmm.
Rifkin masterfully does this role when he poses this question to Exley. All the acting is so fucking good.
Yeah, and this other guy who's like above the police chief, who's not Ian Holm, but looks like Ian Holm, but fatter.
Not Ian Holm, yeah, probably the what do they call him?
I don't know who that guy is, but I like him.
Probably the superintendent.
Yeah, something. I like that
guy.
The guy. Yeah, I think he does a really good job in the role. I love it when he gives Exley his medal at the end, his second medal, and the look on his face where he kind of nods at him, where it's just like, it's such a fuck you. It's so good. Yeah. And the movie's just chock full of these kinds of little moments, right? It's just more than you can keep up with. I'm surprised you threw your notes out because I can barely remember it. I just watched it last night.
I don't know. I just kind of wanted to chat about it. I mean, and Russell Crowe has said it. Guy Pearce has said it. I think Curtis Hanson wanted to move on, but like, man, to catch up with these guys in like late 60s LA would be fucking awesome.
Well, I like the way it ends because Bud gets a happy ending. He goes to Arizona with Lynn, and I don't know, but thinking about like Eggleston, I would be interested in returning to,
Mm-hmm.
especially because, pardon me, especially because like Eggleston at the ranks at the level that he's rising through the ranks at his age, he's going to be in charge of the whole LAPD by the late 70s, and so like
Yeah.
he would be pretty much, you know, maybe even sooner than that, and so I like the idea of him of like following it. Like I would be interested in checking back on him for maybe like the civil rights era or for like the Vietnam era, you know, something like that would be kind of cool. I could get in on that, especially now that he's older. That'd be interesting too. But Curtis Hanson has passed, and I don't think anyone else could quite do it like him.
Reminded me a lot of the Untouchables.
Only good.
We got it. We I don't know, man. When's the last time we got to investigate it again? We got to go back because Kevin Costner as Elliot Ness. You know, man, to have Kevin. I was thinking about this a couple days ago. To have an old Kevin Costner return as Elliot Ness for the Torso murders in Cleveland would be so fucking awesome because he was a big part of those.
Yeah,
That would be fucking amazing.
That would be pretty cool. And
But I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm ready to move. I like the Jerry Goldsmith score. It's not like Goldsmith's regular stuff. It gets the point across without being like too. One thing, dude, that Dante Spinati does here is he doesn't good German this shit. He doesn't good German it, which is just like make it look exactly like they came out in 1953.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Make it glossy and romantic. Like punch those lights up and soften them up. Make everybody glowing. No, it just seems
gritty.
real.
Yeah, and again, like to go back to Wonder Boys, because I've seen Wonder Boys so many times. It's the same filmmaking crew, and in some ways you can see some of the same colors, right? There's the burnt ochres and like the browns and the oranges. Like you can see some of these color palettes getting reworked in both of these movies, but they're used so differently. In LA Confidential, the mood is like you say, it's much more muddy and like grimy and grainy. It's all these things, and then you get to Wonder Boys just a couple years later, and it's so smooth and fluid and warm and comfortable, and it's just like it's really. It's like, how did you do that? How did you fucking do that? You're the same guys doing the same shit, but you just make such light tweaks so they can feel worlds apart. Yeah, it's awesome,
fucking amazing.
Yeah. Well, should we wrap this up? Oh, David Strathairn. We would be remiss to not say what a great actor he is too. Gotta love him in this movie. Patchett.
He's in it. What was that trivia note I saw? His initials are literally Pimp. Patchett Morehouse Pierce.
I didn't even notice that. That's funny. But yeah. All right. So you brought it to the table, my friend. What do you got to say about it?
I did. For some reason, as a 17-year-old boy, I would watch this over and over again because it was just such a big movie, and it was so professionally done, and it was so technically cute, and everything was just firing all over the place. I loved it, man. I never really got into the story that much and what they were trying to say about the necessities in the 50s of this sort of shit. I mean, maybe some of it was necessary, especially in the case of the victim. And like I mentioned earlier, maybe even in the case of Bud, when people that are protected have to pay, you got to become a fucking animal. And I did dig that, man. And we're in a period nowadays where the lines are so fucking blurred that it's got to be a goddamn nightmare. My father-in-law is a cop, and he said that was a cop for 35 years, and he said that it was like going to war every day. He said it was like going to war every day. That really stuck with me. So this is a fucking great movie about cops. It's a great movie about fucking LA grimy, pulpy police corruption. It's fucking hard-boiled. But it's one of those movies that is like it's like fucking Brown Eyed Girl to me, man. It's like fucking Brown Eyed Girl.
Wow. Yeah, I get that immediately.
It really is.
I love Van Morrison, but I hate Brown Eyed Girl.
Yeah. If I didn't hear it that much and someone was like, "You ever heard this?" I'm like, "No, I love Van Morrison." Oh my god, this is fucking good. But I don't even have to look at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I know every line. Like, I know every beat. I know the characters. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh my God, get back out there immediately if it's been 20 years. It's a fucking great movie. Clearly it holds up. It's such a great achievement. But I'm afraid audiences today might be a little bit bored because we've seen a lot of this in the past 26 years. But that does not take away from the fact that this is a fucking milestone. Fantastic. Holds up.
All right. What this movie does in terms of trying to show us the complexities of trying to administer justice with all these other people who have their own ideas about justice, and it's going to be drenched in the times, right? It's going to be contextualized by the culture that you're in. And as we mentioned earlier, like the LAPD has a long history of corruption and abuse. Police gangs within the precincts, that kind of stuff, literally, right? And I thought of that watching this movie, and you know, how many times in American history have some poor group of Latinos or Black dudes been rounded up and had them pointed at as being the culprits when they were not, whether they were guilty of other things or not, as we saw with the Night Owl murderers, quote unquote. I think the movie does a really good job of taking all of this uncomfortable stuff to look at that we're aware of about the police system and making us think about it while we're entertained by it at the same time. And making us assess it and assess each one of these characters and judge their flaws and their merits. You know, like you are forced to think about these things as you watch the film. Which that says volumes about Elroy's book, because you know that's got to be in the pages. Unlike you, I've not seen this a million times. I haven't seen it since 1999 or something, probably. It holds up fantastically. It is way better than I remember.
Oh shit.
I liked it then, but yeah, I think I'll check in on it again sooner. And it's a damn fine movie. Curtis Hanson, I don't know about before and after, but he had a good little run there in the late 90s.
Oh, what was it after 8 Mile?
It just went all downhill.
God damn it.
It was just all downhill after that.
Fuck.
I mean, that was pretty downhill itself. This is our third? No, yeah, third Curtis Hanson movie.
Wonder Boys. Shit.
Yeah, Wonder Boys, 8 Mile, and this.
This guy's about to join the Hall of Fame.
Those were his that was like the big 3 in a row, I think, that he did.
We're definitely doing Hand on the Rocks or Cradle, especially with Mike on this show.
Yeah, I'm sure. Speaking of Mike,
yes,
he sent in his pick for next week. And he picked one that makes sense. It makes a whole bunch of sense. I think that this is another one that, regardless of how we might feel about it now, it'd be hard not to recognize that in 2006 it was a barn burner of a hit. Get that slow-mo ready.
Oh God.
We're going to Zack Snyder's 300.
What? Mike, what? How would Mike care about 300? This makes perfect sense. The ramp jump, 300. 300, Mike?
300.
This is
what we're doing.
Our choice from Mike.
Rate and review the show. You can find us. You can email us places. I don't know. I'm trying to do the bit.
Yeah. We haven't had a review in like 2 years. Do me a personal favor, man. Like, we had a lot of laughs, and you owe us. Let's be real plain and simple here. You owe us. It's a free show. Do the right thing and give us a review on Apple Podcast Reviews.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take her easy.
I got no quote.
I got one.
Bring it.
Unless you came here to wipe my ass, I believe we're through.